Hello, Aldwyn Altuney here with the beautiful Leah Zalums. Welcome to Media Queen TV. I'm so excited about today's interview. We have a hot topic for you, and it's all about how to express your leadership power. How to express your leadership power. Now, a little bit about Leah before we chat with her. She is a CEO, executive coach, and whole plant-based food nutrition advocate who inspires and equips mature women leaders in business with confidence and radiance. Run, eat green, and keep speaking up, she says. Stay focused on your mountaintop. The magic lives within uncertainty. Learn how to navigate this, and you give yourself the best shot at living an extraordinary life. Welcome, Leah.
Woohoo! Thank
Great
you so much, Aldwyn, for having me today. What a treat.
It's fantastic to have you. And I'm so excited too that we have you as our guest speaker at the Mass Media Tribe Meetup online on Friday, March 4 from 12 till 2 Queensland time, 1 till 3 for people in New South Wales, Victoria on AEDT time. We're on AEST time. And we have some people joining us this Friday. This Friday. It's going to be amazing. So we're going to hear more on this topic on Friday. For those joining us, love to know, where are you joining us from right now? And if you have any questions for Leah, we would love to share your questions with her as we go along. So firstly, Leah, I'd love to know a bit of your background. Now, you've been, we've seen each other at many events over the years, all over Australia at different events. We did a workshop together in Melbourne quite a few years ago now, and I've seen you, we've crossed paths many times with different programs, and you've been, on this path for quite a while, developing your business and developing yourself. So can we hear a bit of your background story on what it was that brought you to doing what you're doing now?
Oh, where to begin, Aldwyn? Like, I've been on the planet now for 60 years.
Wow, you look fabulous for 60.
Well, and it's like the whole eat green, be bold, keep speaking up, and it is opportunities like this that actually helps me to continue to fine-tune and to develop who I am and what I stand for and what change do I want to make in the world. Because I've always been one of these people from a child that really, whatever I did, I was quite good at it. Right? I was quite good at running. I was quite good at sport. I was quite good at volleyball. I was quite good at in studies, but I was never the best. Right. I was never top dog. And so, but I always had a work ethic, and and high energy, right? So my personal health has always been a big focus and high value for me. So I've always been very sporty, and also education has always been a big deal for me. And I've been on the self-development path since a teenager. And when we talk about, working, finding your purpose or finding that thing in your life, what you want to do, I was always intrigued by how does something work. And when I finished year 12, I knew I wanted to do things and do things in business, and so with people and with science, because it was how humans work at the molecular level that drew me into my biochemistry degree in those first few years. But by the time I did my honours degree, I realised the lab was way too lonely. Test tubes don't talk back to you. And it was the people side of science that really intrigued me. So how do people work, right, in a social level rather than in the physical molecular level? And that really threw me into sales and in pharmaceutical sales, medical technology, healthcare, where I spent really 3 decades of my life, always in cutting edge technology of how do we use technology to help people be better, feel better, live better. How do we help doctors do their work better? How do we continue to grow ourselves and be the best version of ourselves that we can, even though I didn't language it that way. I really didn't language it that way until I really was sick of the corporate grind and could not stand another minute working for the man. I could not work for the man for a minute longer. So it was that kind of precipice, or that rock bottom of, as much as I was very successful in sales, in, you know, whether it be corporate technology sales or relationship, partnership, alliances in these big corporations. I had a lot of freedom. You know, the earnings were good, the lifestyle factors were there, but this was not something I was creating for me. And what was also happening was that I was becoming much more of a mentor and a coach for younger people, for other people. And so that is what really then led me into health coaching first off, because as I got older, I got more focused on my personal health. And that's drawn me into the whole food, you know, eating. How can I be as clean and as energetic as I can to, you know, help my body be the best it can be? And then coaching others through the same. And it was my frustration at, why can't people just do what I did? Why can't they follow the plan like I followed the plan? And that led me into doing my master's in coaching psychology to try to get better at influencing people to do good things for themselves. That was really at the heart of it. Isn't that amazing? But, you know, because and even my doctor and my cardiologist have me as their model patient. I said, Leah, none of our patients are as diligent with their health, so like consistently on point with what you eat, how you're taking care of yourself, right? Because I do have some cardiovascular compromise in my body, right? So I have a real thing as the reason why. So it is part of my makeup, but it's like I'm on this path to be able to influence others as to, how do I motivate you to eat as well as you can and be the best version of yourself? Because I know when that is driving you, you are going to be so much more prepared to take the hard knocks the world gives you when you stand out with an alternate view. And you've just got the best name for, you know, Aldwyn Altuney. I mean, you don't get, like, for someone that holds alternate views, you know, you've got the perfect name for that. And I think that's what we so,
yes,
you know,
true.
And so you're very much a role model for me in that regard, Aldwyn. And so that's what I seek to do, is to be continuing to speak up about what's important to me, to see who's resonating with that. Because that, to me, is the essence of leadership, is us leading ourselves in our truth and seeing what the fallout is. It's like being almost organic with who your followers become, you know, and how that, all of that, because ultimately we do need to find our people who want to be on that same path. I've realized I cannot convince anybody of anything if they don't have even a mustard seed of willingness to hear, to discuss, to try to hold alternate views, to try to see another point of view. And I think that's probably at the essence of all these 5 or 6 years that I've been coaching. And it comes into my why leadership coaching, because leadership coaching speaks to the essence of who we are and what we stand for, and to help ourselves to express that in ways that is understandable and is able to influence and is able to shift others' perspectives. And I think that's what lies at the heart of, why are we talking about how to express our leadership power? I mean, what on earth is leadership power? And ultimately, it's the power to influence from your truth. right?
I love that.
That's the difference between that and the old-fashioned leadership of the command and control power base that sits in corporate. That whole, like, just with the drama that is going on in the world, right, with Russia and Ukraine, we can't ignore those realities, but look at those egos in play.
Yes.
And it's a very that's why it's so important to define what each of our individual unique leadership power is. And the more of us that coming from a holistic, like what's good for me, for you, and our ecosystem, the planet.
Yes.
Right? And that's my quest in corporate work, is to work with leaders and their teams so that we all make better decisions for ourselves, our people, and our planet. Right? That's my that's the whole essence behind Zaxis Leadership Consultancy, which is about giving passionate leaders a whole new dimension in how they think, how they hold perspectives, how they make meaning of things. And then very much on an individual level for entrepreneurs and founders, and particularly female startup founders who have a mission and a passion to create change in that aspect of the world that speaks to them, right? So
yes.
it's the two sort of areas of industry, if you like, that I work in.
I love that, Leah. Thank you for sharing that. We've got some wonderful people have joined us. We've got lovely Moana Robinson who's joined us. She says, very true. She says, the power to lead from your truth. Love that. Now, Moana, interesting, is also 60 years of age, and she looks absolutely fabulous. She is an amazing example of a lady who has been a true leader for those around her for many years, and she's been through all sorts of health challenges, and she's soldiered on as a woman, as a mother, as someone who's been in a very long relationship, as someone who is a great role model for society. I've heard that women, when they get to 50, they get a new sense of power, talking about leadership power, and I've heard from many women, once they reach 50, they just don't care what anyone else thinks, and they have this new sense of power that comes on. And Melinda,
only when it's awakened. Only when it's awakened.
Okay.
Right. And if they're not, well, and I'd love to hear Moana's take on this too. But,
yes.
But that there's definitely a movement away from material world to much more heart-centered spiritual world, and where meaning has more is more important than, say, working, for material things. So there's a shift in where our focus goes. However, a lot of women, if we don't connect and do the work to find our truth and what we truly stand for, we tend to stay on that, what is it? Not the rat wheel, the rat race, and that treadmill, right?
Yes.
And the rat race, because and we need women in corporate and in government in this magical age of 50 to 60, where they step into their power and their voice. And that's a whole area that I don't think is really going too well. And and again, why? Because there's so much systemic pressure.
Yes.
Sorry, I've just...
Yes. Well, it's interesting because it's been such a male-dominated industry and world for so long. And I actually do believe the divine feminine is rising now. Like as an example, I just last year won the BX National Print Media and Photography Award. We had 8 finalists. All the others were men, and I was the only female. So that's saying massive things for women in the media. The fact that was recognized. I was recognized as a female in a very male-dominated industry. I think the shifts are happening. I mean, that's just one award, but in many different areas, I'm seeing women are actually rising up now, particularly with all the craziness going on in the world. Women are more inspired now to help shift that, to bring more heart, more love, and more truth to the world, and Moana's a great example. She says, yes, over 50, she says, brings wisdom and you realize what is important. And Melinda's saying here, interesting diet that gives you ultimate energy, eating for your personal specific health plan. Yes, there's still unbalanced male, female CEOs and on board of directors. Right. So what's your opinion?
Big time.
Yep.
There's
Yeah.
like it huge, and particularly in the science and technology industries, which is where I've come from, and where, you know, there are a number of us trying to make changes in there. But it is interesting that there is still not, it's like there are these little spheres of groups trying to do things. And I guess that's how things start, don't they? With one, it's like the butterfly effect. You start flapping and trust that it will be felt on the other side of the world. I mean, that's a thing. You know, I mean, isn't that incredible that the butterfly flapping here does create weather changes on the other side of the planet? And I remember I went to see Yoko Ono some years ago, and she was phenomenal. And she,
did you say Yoko Ono?
Yes.
Yoko Ono, as in John Lennon's Yoko Ono. Wow.
Yes, she came
that
to
would have been
Australia.
amazing.
And this was just before she launched her first own music, you know, album, right? But she said she was really intent on getting her message across of how important our thoughts are. What we think here in Australia is just as important as what they think in Europe or in the US. That know that our thinking, our energetically, our thoughts have power, and we must think good thoughts. We must be productive, and we must know that we matter, because I think this is a big gap, Aldwyn, that a lot of women 50 to 60, if they're not connected to their truth and something that they're passionate about, if they don't give themselves energy to stay on the path, because a lot of women lose their energy. They're tired, they're burnt out, and they think it's too late, or they become invisible, right? And I know you are a master, an absolute master at helping people shine, and women in particular. And we must keep that light shining. And that's also where we do that for each other. And we must help each other to stay alight, because there is so many systemic pressures and biases, and the old world of male energy is still all powerful in those circles, and in big decision making rooms. And that's been one of my quests, is to work towards empowering the women who want to be in those rooms, right? Because I've left that world. I don't want to be in the boardroom with, you know, Mr. Morrison, and it's like I don't want to be that voice in there, but I would love to work with the women who do want to be in there, because I know I can give them the oil and the juice, right, and the tools and the strategies to be that. It's almost like I become their performance coach, right? Because I was thinking about what's the essence of why someone chooses me over the plethora of leadership coaches and business. Because someone was telling me there's something like at least 1.5 million business coaches just on LinkedIn, even, right? Like, so there's a lot of people that are out there marketing themselves as coaches, as agents of change, as, you know, leadership development coaches. And it's like, it is the essence of our performance, the tools, the strategies, and the empowerment that needs to all align within us if we're going to be able to be that Grace Tame, for example, or the climate change, the 17-year-old climate change girl from Sweden, right? Who campaigns relentlessly, and for months was, you know, picketing standing there with her placard all on her own every Friday afternoon for months before anyone joined her, right? So what gives us the stamina to stay in the race long enough with our placard, right?
Yes.
And to allow the other people to find you and to join you, and to create that critical mass. And that it all takes time. It all
Yes.
takes time. And so that's why maintaining this leadership power is a daily ritual.
Yes, and I'd love to get into more of the visual. I do want to say here that, look, there's a lot of amazing men out there, and we're definitely not putting men down here, although generally speaking, men by nature are hunters, right? They're hunters, and they have the warrior spirit, right? They have this warrior spirit where they want to lead, whereas women tend to be more of the nurturers, right? Just by nature, this is in our makeup, right? In how we're designed. And there's a place for men and women. And what is happening now, I believe, is as the women are rising, because there's been this imbalance for way too long, right? Way too many men leading and not enough women stepping up, right? A lot of women giving, and then depleting themselves, right? So I just want to say here that there are some phenomenal men out there doing amazing things, and very heart-centered men as well out there, right? You get all sorts, right? However, if you look at major dictatorships, and like you look at people like Stalin and Hitler, and these are men that killed masses of people in the most cruel way. And I'm sure if there were women at the helm here, they wouldn't have that wouldn't have happened, right? So a lot of wars are instigated by men. The armies, most of the fighters are men, right? And so there's a place for men and women.
Testosterone imbalance. There's most definitely.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And so I want to acknowledge and recognize the men out there that do come from a very heart-centered space, like people like Dr. Espen I've been working with lately. He's an amazing, amazing heart-centered man who has that balance of masculine and feminine that I see, right? And it's when there's the imbalance that, that things need to shift. And we're seeing it right now. We're seeing it now. We've just seen Russia just bomb the Ukraine. Who knows what the hidden agendas are behind that? There's all sorts of stories going on out there. I do believe do your own research behind what's behind COVID. I can tell you in the media industry, there were times, like I was a sub-editor at the Gold Coast Bulletin, and we had editorial meetings. It was like 10 people in the editorial, the team that would work out what stories we were going to cover each day. We had the editor, the chief of staff, and then all the main journalists. And out of all those people, out of say 10 people, there'd be one female, right? Now that's just not balanced, right? And and now there's this whole thing about, are you male or female? What are you actually? There's, this whole gender, like it's actually, it's like, what do you want to call yourself? What do you want to be identified as? And some people saying they want to identify as a toaster, so, so it's,
Is that a real thing?
Well, because of the whole common law thing that's happening, a lot of people are coming out with common law and talking about different ways of doing things because again, there's been a very corrupt system for a long time, and now what's happening, I believe, with COVID is that the truth and the light is starting to come up, and the truth always comes out in the end, right? And so the truth will reveal itself, and unfortunately, we do have some psychopaths and sociopaths running certain areas of the world. However, the people are now rising. The people are saying enough is enough. And when enough people stand up, and in fact, it's only one awake heart that will wake up 5,000 others, right? So that's
beautiful. One
for 5,000. And if you look at the Maharishi effect, if you look at 100 meditators, look up Maharishi effect, it actually reduced the crime rate in certain places, like the butterfly effect, right? So the ripple effect of you stepping up and stepping into your truth and your light will then naturally flow on. That leadership power will flow on in ways that you may not even imagine.
Yes. And I would love to see more association between this narrative, Aldwyn, of leadership power and the spiritual aspects, energetic aspects, because I think that's a real gap, right? And because leadership training, for example, it's all been CBT, cognitive behavioral style, right, based on psychotherapy. So, and that I'm a master at that stuff. And there are, the logic aspects of that have their place, but there is so much room for more of this feeling into things and honoring, right, honoring light and energy, but standing in your power in that, right? And so it's kind of, and I wonder if it's a style thing, that where these two worlds have been quite separate, right? Where the woo-woo land versus the cognitive land, right? Or the psychology land, the science land. But as we see, science, like one of the scientists I follow is Bruce Lipton, and he is all about the power of our beliefs. And he was a hardcore biochemist, a Newtonian scientist, right, which is my background as well.
Right.
And so his story and how he frames up his own awakening, right, into this. And I think the more of this kind of transformation, people who have transformed from their old beliefs to, it is very much a integrated way of looking at things as opposed to one or the other. But yeah, more leadership language into like the reality of this power that we don't necessarily see in test tubes or, you know, in physics, but we're starting to, the science is getting better at seeing things that weren't able to be seen, you know, 20 years ago or 50 years ago. Like we're seeing, like with, you know, functional MRIs and seeing the difference in our brain when we are meditating, even for 10 or 15 minutes a day, doing it regularly enough. There are physiological changes in our brain. It has to change the way we treat each other, the way we make meaning of things. Like this is one of the areas of work that tends to be a very, very common area of work I do when we get into the nitty-gritty, like one-on-one with people about how they're making meaning of things, right? So how are you dealing with the idea of, wow, if I'm going to be a leader, it means I take 100% responsibility for everything that happens in my life, in my business, and everything that does not happen in my life and in my business. How do we actually do that, right? That's a learning journey, right? Because it did my head in, right, to take ownership of that without then becoming the doormat. Because no, you are not the doormat when you take responsibility. It's the difference between responsibility and delegation. You can delegate, but it's up to you to make sure that that job is still done on time and to a standard, your standard, right? And this is something I think you excel in, Aldwyn, that you are absolutely a woman and a professional of very high standards. Like just the way you prepared me for today, very high standard of preparation. Right?
Thank you.
And that shows. But that's so something that, and that is again from your background of you have what you needed to do to be able to be seen and heard and get the story and publish it, you know, all of your background, right? Where you've had to be like firm and deliberate and detailed, right? Big picture and detail. And I think as leaders, as coaches, as change makers, we do need to be good at the big picture and the detail. And we've got to take responsibility financially as well. And this is a whole other aspect of leadership, and as business owners particularly, because we are in the value economy, the shared experience economy, and we do give so much of ourselves without a financial return, right? Because we want to give, we want to share, and that is how business gets done these days. How do people know about us? It's because of what we share, and that's why the media and you know and conversations like this going live, sharing our insights and tips and how we think and how we do things is so important. You know, in the old days, you know, what did we used to do? Send lumpy mail with the sales letter.
Yes.
And I can remember sending out chewing gum because I wanted something to stick.
I like that. Or you could put a tea bag. Actually, if you did that now, the lumpy mail, you would definitely wow people now if you did lumpy mail, because you know how often do we get things in the mail that aren't bills or, you know, someone in real estate trying to buy your house or sell your house.
Exactly.
Or, you know, it's about the only mail I get nowadays. Real estate agents and bills.
That's right.
So you would definitely wow people. And thank you so much for everyone who's joined us. Please let us know where you're joining us from and what are you grateful for today? You know, coming into gratitude is such a powerful thing. And I want to point out Dr. Hawkins' scale of consciousness here. I absolutely live by this. I absolutely love this. This is scientifically proven. About 100 years ago, Dr. Hawkins proved that we are 99.9 and another 8.9% energy, frequency, and vibration. And we all vibrate at different frequencies. And when you are in love and above, you're at 528 hertz you're vibrating at when you're at love and above. Higher than love is gratitude and joy. So whenever you get into gratitude or do something you love, you are raising your vibration and you are going to attract more opportunities to yourself. You're going to have a greater experience of life. And then above that is peace and enlightenment. When you get down the bottom here, the lowest vibration other than being dead at 0, which clearly you're not dead because you're here joining us right now. So shame is at 20. Guilt is 30. Fear, which is where most of the world's vibrating right now, is down at 100. And anger is 150. Whenever you feel angry, you're lowering your vibration. Now, of course, there's going to be times in life we're going to go up and down this scale, right? However, the trick is how quickly can you pull yourself out of those low moments, get the lessons, get the learnings, appreciate the learnings, because, you know, the emotions are there for a reason. The healing is in the feeling. So what are you feeling right now? How is your environment right now? Your environment's so crucial. Are people around you increasing your vibration? Are they raising your vibration? Do you feel great around the people in your life right now? Or do you feel with some people that no matter what you say to them, they just whinge and whinge and whinge and blame and you know, that below the line behavior? Whereas when you step up and take 100% responsibility for your life, but everything in your life, as you say, Leah, every single thing in your life you create, when you get the power of this quantum field and the energy that is within and all around us, when you tap into that, the more amazing opportunities happen, the more synchronicities happen. And, you know, if you want an amazing life, you can create it. And in saying that, you know, it's important. It's a journey. It's important to keep, I believe, keep working on yourself, keep doing the work, keep doing the inner work, doing the outer work, doing whatever work it takes for you to show up in your best leadership potential, because you are an expression of your business. So,
and yes, and just on that too, Aldwyn, that's if we look at the flip side of that and what happens to us if we don't make these choices that you've outlined so beautifully, if we don't focus there on finding ways to do what we love, finding what it is that we want to do that does give us that feeling of love. If we don't, this is what drives depression, and bad things happen through depression, right? And so it's not just, oh, it's all right. You know, yes, I know I should be doing that. I should be focusing on finding what work I can do. Like, how can I make money doing what I love? Like, that can be, and that is the most important journey you can take, because too many people are still dying in their jobs just to pay the bills, and it's doing more than keeping them from living their full potential. It's actually sending them downwards. So that spiral, it doesn't stay neutral, it goes down.
Right. Absolutely. Great point. That's right. We're never stagnant and still, right? You're either, if you're not vibrating a higher energy, you're vibrating lower energy, which means you just could potentially keep going down, or you bring yourself up. So half the thing, I think, is just getting conscious where we've been unconscious in life. And because a lot of people, I look around, a lot of people out there like the Walking Dead, you know, they've got these masks on, they're gagging themselves. You don't need to wear a mask, people, you know, you don't. Okay, now, you know, do your own research into this, but wearing a mask is incredibly unhealthy. You can get an exemption, okay? Go to a doctor. If one doctor doesn't give you an exemption, go to another one. I went to one. I said, I can't breathe in things. I feel like I'm suffocating. It affects me mentally. They gave me a certificate and said, you are exempt from wearing a mask. So I have a mask exemption. Not that anyone has ever asked me for that. But, you know, just that point alone, so many people are just gagged. And actually, over time, if you look back, you will see that how to control and silence the people. You have people in fear, divide and rule, put a mask on, cover your face up, feel like you know, you have no expression. You can't, we don't want to hear from you. You just do what you're told, right? This is how we're educated. Just do as you're told, right? So I love this new leadership that you're talking about here, this new holistic leadership, because a lot of people think leaders are greedy, you know, are selfish.
Most of them are. Like, if the amount of narcissism in leaders, in corporate leadership and government, still is the majority, Aldwyn. So it's understandable that people equate leaders with a negative view, and that's also been most of our experience in our work life. And even small business owners may not mean to be mean, right? But often they are, because they're struggling to keep the lights on, and they take out their anger and their frustration on whipping the staff. And they haven't learnt how to manage people or how to respect people. We don't learn enough of this in school. Like, where did we learn to do feedback, give each other constructive feedback? And this is one of the things that is starting to happen more now, that leadership coaches and organisations are starting to get back get into schools and teach, even at primary school level, teaching kids how to have a conversation with alternate views, how to give feedback respectfully, how to ask for what you really want, how to even know what you really want. Like those, if we can instill that at a younger age, imagine how much more effective they're going to be in what choices they make and how they handle people who disagree with them, right? Because I think we're still churning out a lot of young people that are still making choices based on what mum and dad expect them to do. Maybe the millennials, there's a whole band of them that's different, because they're seeking more meaning-driven work over the paycheck, right? Where the studies show that. But then you've got whole other issues of entitlement, and they're not perfect either, right? This whole thing of how do we work with millennials, but and this is where I think our wisdom as this, I don't even know, I don't like the word seniors or mature, or but it really is the 45 plus woman, right? Because you're not 50 yet, are you, Aldwyn? So
no, I'm 48. Just turned 48, and I'm proud of my age. So many. So there's another thing. A lot of women. Oh, no, I don't want to tell people my age. Well, just own it, claim it. 70 is the new 40 now, anyway. So just get over that, right? And if people have their judgments about it, that's their issue, not yours, right? But I'm proud of my 48 years. I had an amazing 48 years, and I feel like I'm just beginning. So, there we go. I'm 48, and I'm actually going for children now. First time in a committed relationship in 7 years. So watch this space. It may or may not happen. Let's see. However, we're having a lot of fun practicing anyway. And
I bet you are.
So,
that's where your glow is coming from.
That's right. I'm actually doing some action finally. Action at the station here.
Oh, I love it.
In a loving way. Of course, casual sex is never quite the same. So I'm glad I'm not doing that anymore. Anyway, it's all about love. Spread the love, right? We need more love out there. Less wars, more love, I say, however that looks for you, right?
Well, and that's a really good point, isn't it? That there again, it is however love manifests for you. And not for a lot of women, they're actually becoming single in their 50s, right?
Yes.
And so does that mean that they will never experience love again? No, and it doesn't have to come from a relationship, from a union with another person, but there needs to be social interaction, right? Because there's a lot of isolation that happens often when women get older as well. And then, and then there is also there are issues with women supporting women too, Aldwyn, right? That we're not just one happy family. We don't naturally raise each other up. There are in certain circles we do.
Yes.
But when in the business world, there's not enough of that happening, and I think a lot of that is scarcity mentality. Like there's only there's still only one extra seat at the table, if that, right, at the leadership table or in the boardroom, and I want to make sure I get that. So I'm not going to support your voice in the meeting because I'm not going to take the risk of sacrificing my position because they might prefer you. So there is a scarcity mindset that needs to be blown out of the water, and I think this comes from the abundance like looking for abundance, expecting abundance. What are our personal standards and our expectations of others? That's a powerful model I work with, right? Is our standards are the behaviors that we commit to that take us toward our goal, and the expectations is the standards of behavior that we expect to see from others. And we must communicate those, because that becomes the boundary by which people know whether they belong, whether it's going to be a good fit or not, right?
Yes.
So, and there's always going to be give and take, but the clearer we can be with expressing what is okay, what's not okay, and what I expect from you, how I like to be communicated with. I don't want to get texts, I want to get emails. Or maybe I don't want emails, I want texts. Or, these are the finer, I guess, elements of how we also conserve energy, right? And so for people like us, we can get on and talk at any time of day or night, I bet. It's
yes.
but not everybody has that abundance quite they don't tap into that abundance quite so naturally.
Yes.
So,
or have the confidence, in themselves to do that, right?
Well,
so
and
confidence.
that plays into our leadership power, and what we're going to go more, deeper into on Friday in the workshop. And I've got some fabulous things to share about that. That the more we can put into our daily ritual, then the easier it is to be firm with others. Because this is where we firmed out. We might be really firm with ourselves, right? It's like I'm very firm about some aspects of what I eat and what I won't eat. And people say, oh, well, what do you feed your husband? So, what does he eat when you're eating these things? And I said, he eats what I eat, or he cooks for himself. I don't cook special meals for other people, but he's loving it. Because it actually works, right? It's variety, right?
Yes.
And so, the fact that he still eats meat and I don't try to convince him one way or the other. But, the more that I'm kind of like the more power I'm getting from how I eat, the easier it is not to eat certain things, But I don't make other people wrong, regardless of my belief system and what I know about the impact of that on the world. Do you know what I mean? Like there's got to be respect for other people's choices as well. But that's where the work of defining our standards and our expectations is such an important piece of work to define our identity. You brought that up before. And again, our identity is a concept that I work deeply with people, because a lot of women they lose their identity and they want to find it and create it. And what is so beautiful is we can create any identity we want at any age, at any time.
Yes.
And we can change it if we want it. We absolutely, when we have the belief, right, and we don't have that belief until we experience that ourselves. And that's why coaching and mentoring and working with guides, if you like, right, it is so important, because they often hold the belief in you and guide you with the skills and the roadmap, if you like, until you experience something that gives you that taste of belief, right?
Love that.
Because
love that. Now we've got quite a few comments here. I just want to backtrack a little bit. We've got Melinda here says, wow, Yoko, that would be awesome to meet her. How would you describe Yoko's personality when you saw her?
Oh, absolutely captivating. Stillness.
Oh, I like that. Captivating stillness. Love it. And I bet she's into meditating. I bet she does just a little bit of meditating, right?
Yes. And she definitely stands in that power of her still very deliberate in how she uses language, and how she interacts. She's very energy conscious.
Energy conscious. Love it. Love it. Thank you for that. And we've got beautiful Moana Robinson says a great quest. She loves your quest here. And we have here Melinda. It's funny because throughout history there has been a lot of strong female leaders, Helen of Troy, Cleopatra, Joan of Arc, many more, but today's female leaders don't seem to be well known. Now that's a really good point.
Exactly. And that was what I was saying. Look at our women in government. Like, I mean, a lot of the ones with potential have left. They leave and then they speak up. They don't speak up when they're in the chair. You know, and so I agree. There's a void. There's a void. And this is where what we do have though is lots of pockets of change makers in different fields.
True. We do.
So
and
that there's disruption happening. So
it is.
So I think there's an emergence and there's an evolution
there is
happening,
and lots of women's circles, and I've been in quite a few myself, and I love the women's circles. And from the beginning of time, it's important that women have their women time, men have their men time. Like the guys that go out hunting, the women go out gathering, and then they come back and they celebrate around the fire, they dance and they celebrate and eat together. So it's important that we do this, that we have our women's circles, that we support each other, because as we all support each other and treat others as we want to be treated, so important, because karma comes back. If you're nasty to others, it'll come back to you and it'll bite you in the backside. Okay, so always be loving, I suggest, and be smart about it too, because some people, like, if you have sociopaths and psychopaths that are just taking advantage of you, well, you can send them love, but you don't have to engage with them in business or in, so be smart about it too. And that's where tapping into intuition and feeling into, certain people's intentions, etc., is important, and doing your due diligence is really important as well. And I can tell you, I have been, ripped off multiple times in the past and unfortunately taken advantage of, that I have been very trusting of people, and I haven't done my due diligence properly many times, and so I've learned that one the hard way. So I think that's important.
Is that because you're trusting too quickly?
I have been very trusting, and I tend to see the best in people all the time. So I tend to look at the things that I really like, right, and I sort of dismiss the things I don't like, and I think, oh well, everyone's got those things, and let's focus on what's possible for this person, right? Let's and so I'm always standing for what's possible. However, I've realized, and some people said, oh, Aldwyn, you've been naive over the years, and yes, I probably have been naive over the years, right? And so that's something I've learned, and I know it's in our whole family. Like, we're just so loving and giving all the time. And it's a European background too. Like, people would come to our house when I was a kid. My mum would just feed them, and they wouldn't leave until they're absolutely full, right?
Same. Yep.
Yeah. What's your heritage?
Because of course, Estonian, right?
Oh, there you
Latin,
go. So European.
Right? So totally. And food was totally central to, and open house, absolutely.
Yes. And here's Melinda saying, I always say, if a male isn't behaving, would you treat your mother like that? The gender thing. And yes, common law, absolutely. Would you treat your mother like that? And isn't it interesting? Hurt people. Okay, if people have issues with their mother, which if you don't do the inner work and do the healing around this with your mother or your father, it's either usually most issues come from mother or father from a young age, before the age of 7. Something happens and then we make it mean something, as they say in Landmark, and then something else happens and we make it mean something, and then we develop these beliefs that life is a certain way, right? And you will keep attracting situations in line with what your beliefs are. And you will have plenty of proof from your past about what your beliefs are, right?
And in your experience, Aldwyn, would you say too that everyone has something to work on? Everyone has some kind of mother or father issue. There are different degrees of issues. It's a spectrum from like trauma to lesser than trauma, right? But everyone has something.
Yes. Look, that's right. Everyone has something, because it's the human experience. It's the human condition. Otherwise, look, if the human condition was just to have a blissful life always, then we'd all be floating on cloud nine. But of course, the human condition is not like that. The human condition is up and down, up and down. We wouldn't see the share market going up and down if it wasn't for the human experience going up and down, up and down, up and down this scale. The trick is, how long do you choose to stay in this victim mode? And we know, like, about 1 million people a year worldwide kill themselves. They get into this victim mode, into depression. And I've experienced it. I've felt the depths of depression. And I have learned, with many, many years of doing the work and, etc., I've learned to be able to pull myself out of these low states very quickly. And I always look at, okay, if I'm having a low experience or I feel triggered by something, I always look at, okay, isn't that interesting? I'm being triggered. And I step back from my experience for a moment. I don't make that my whole experience.
Yes, you disassociate.
Yeah, disassociate. I think, okay, what's the learning for me here in this situation, right? And then once I get the learning and I appreciate the learning, then I'm able to move on, right? So it's all a choice.
But we don't always see the learning, do we?
No, we don't always.
Emotion.
No.
But
No.
I think that's important too, is like when you step away, like I talk about stepping up to the balcony and then looking down on the dance floor. And we've got to alternate between the balcony and the dance floor. But just because we go up to the balcony doesn't mean we're seeing how all the pieces play out clearly. There's gonna be messiness. There's gonna be a lot more messiness the more you speak out, the more you show up, the more you try to find your leadership power. It comes with the territory.
Absolutely.
Right?
And most people have a background of some kind of story of, I'm not loved, I don't belong, I'm not good enough. Most people, in fact, I would say everyone has some kind of story like that. We're not born that way. We're born infinite and loving and abundant. However, usually by the age of 7, we are shut down and put down, and something happens, and we
I think they are the 3 big ones, aren't they? I'm not good enough. I'm not lovable. And the third one,
I don't belong. I don't belong.
I don't belong. Yes.
Fascinating. And what's going on right now is divide and rule. People are being separated. No wonder there's 4 times the suicide rates right now, right?
Yes.
People are losing faith in humanity in some circles. If you watch the media programming every day, and I've worked in the media, I can tell you there's definitely hidden agendas there. If you watch the media program, you will be brainwashed and not realize you're brainwashed, right? So, and each to their own as far as what their beliefs are. But all I can say is, if you want to live an amazing life, regardless of what is going on in the world that you cannot control, then come back to basics. Look at what gives you joy in your life. What can you be grateful for now? Consider those that went through all those world wars and concentration camps, and, consider those people and think, geez, it could be worse. It could be a lot worse right now, right? So let's be grateful for the things that we can appreciate in life and the things you can appreciate about yourself, because it starts with the self-love. So to be a great leader, I'm a bit passionate about this topic. To be a great leader, it's important to have that self-love. And I know for a long time I did not have that self-love. I was very self-destructive.
And that's another association that is like, it's becoming more of a thing, right? In that, and I think particularly with women's leadership programs, and there again, it is important in that all-women environment for the psychological safety. So, which again, it's giving yourself permission to actually acknowledge, and more than acknowledge, and not just like when you read the resumes of people, particularly the ones who aspire to have positions of in boards and CEOs of big companies and all that. When you look at their resumes, Aldwyn, it's all about what they've done is so external. And on the last line might be, I like listening to Brené Brown and and riding my bike. But there's nothing of the essence of who they are, or the transformation they've gone through. And there's a time and a place for that, but it's this reconnection with self. And I think it's this separation and this focus on all of our external achievements that is the shopping list by which that has been the criteria by which you'll get your next promotion or you'll get picked, over the other people. And then they wonder why they feel so empty. And there's such a, there's a whole epidemic of silent drinkers, the the silent alcoholics, among executive women, because it's escapism, because they're actually not being authentic in how they show up. And there's a balance too, that there is a role, different roles we play, alter egos, for example, and how we show up, and like when we're on show, when we're performing, and when we're, having an intimate conversation. But this is the new training ground, I believe, for leadership, power, and I think in your area too, Aldwyn, is how you prepare these women to be able to show up in their power and still fit in those corporate environments, to have that, to be able to be heard by the people that need to be influenced by them. And I think this is a battle that's happening around the level of authenticity and what you stand for. And that's why the values work is so important, and aligning our personal values with the values of the organization we represent. And that's what I'm so enjoying about my own business, is I get to craft those values. I get to determine what they are, right? Which I can't do when I work for the man. Right?
I love that. And I'd love to hear, what are some of your values, Leah?
Oh, well, definitely passion, right? To be passionate in who you are and what you do. That would be the core of my value set. And persistence, being persistent with your passion, and learning. I love education, and that's why I've got the university degree in coaching psychology. I mean, what on earth is that? That it is a university degree in the science of human behavior, and the science of goal setting, and the science of corporate leadership. So I've got such a broad knowledge base of theory and what the experts are saying to draw from, and that really forms the foundation for how I coach and how I lead and how I influence. But it doesn't mean I want to be in that world of academia. Absolutely not. I believe I want to be with the commoners. I want to be with the people, right?
Yes, I love that. And all great leaders are great learners as well. And there's a lot of wisdom in reading and in learning and growing and expanding. We never learn less. And I've invested $500,000 in my personal development and business development since 2005, and I keep investing, because all coaches have coaches, right? You look at the best of the best of anyone in the world. They have coaches, they have mentors, because often we're too close to what we do to see to see the areas we can tweak, and and always looking to take things to the next level, to reach more people, have more impact.
I would also say that that's a gap I see in women who want to take this leap, who want to create a movement, create something that didn't exist before. That's the definition of leadership as well, and creatorship, right? We're in the era of creativity. Is that if they haven't experienced having a coach themselves, then they don't have an experience to know the value of that, to be able to make it can be difficult for them to justify the investment of having a coach, because they don't see themselves in that leader bracket or in that expert bracket. So you've come from a background where you were, table tennis star. Like you've experienced being the best at what you do, right? And so women who have come out of corporate or government where they have been invested in by their organizations, it can also be a sticking point for them to actually find the money to pay for coaching. So that's a gap as well, Aldwyn, that, and that's what it's so important for us to know, that every dollar we spend on coaching, even if we pay for something and end up having a difficult experience with it, in that if it doesn't give us what we thought it was going to, or if it doesn't deliver what we thought it was. But there are learnings and there of how did we make that decision? But there is always things to learn, right?
Yes.
And that's part of broadening our perspective, because often we're so tunnel vision in how we, particularly when we have a strong belief about something, that can also stop us from seeing alternate possibilities. But and so the balance between staying on your path to your mountaintop whilst exploring and taking in others' perspectives, that's the skill of adaptability and flexibility, of not losing yourself but not closing yourself. Oh my God, it's bloody hard work, you know.
It can
to
be
open and to be focused. But as we know, systems die if they don't take in new energy and new information from new sources, from outside things. And that is why, you know, particularly the world of you know, complex adaptive system work, it takes us back to our roots in biology. But that's how we can make sense of the impacts of our environment and people who are not supporting us and not believing in us. Well, we can often learn so much from those people and those experiences as well, but we need to have our boundaries in place so that we are permeable enough to receive fresh input from the outside to keep growing and living, right? Because we're a living organism, but also to protect ourselves from evil forces, because there are definitely a lot of evil forces at play as well.
Yes, and protecting your energy, right? And I love how you said there earlier about, you know, we seek permission from others. You know, all the answers are within ourselves. And, you know, one of my mentors, Ben Harvey from Authentic Education, he had a sign up at his door. It said, "I'm allowed. I'm allowed." You don't need permission from anyone. However, we're conditioned to seek permission from others, right? We're conditioned to rise to the middle here in Australia, particularly, right? The glass ceiling.
Yes.
We are conditioned and programmed this way. And so to break through that ceiling, it takes something. It takes some work, right? And
disruption,
you know,
and work.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, Melinda says here, meditation, third eye chakra, quiet time to prepare your day is so powerful. It is in those higher vibrations. Now, you mentioned rituals earlier, Leah, and I know we've already chatted for an hour. I could talk for another hour easily on this topic. However, we'll wrap up shortly. But I'm curious about your rituals.
My rituals are quite simple. Exercise is the first thing I do of a morning to start my day, and then I make sure I have a nutrient dense breakfast that fuels me, and I take time to savor that breakfast, right? And meditation is definitely, I have periods when I have a period of meditation before I get into my day. Definitely a work in progress on that one, because I find that through my exercise is always a form of meditation as well. Like I'll swim, you know, my 40 laps, you know, which is about 1 kilometre, or I'll run 5 or 10 kilometres, because that's my my go-to exercise is swimming, running, and riding a bike. So definitely my health, which allowing, like, really relying on my body, like feed my body first to, you know, your physiology then depicts your psychology. And so that is where I give myself the best possible start. So, and they are things that I am very rigid about, right? Like I'll have like 1 or 2 rest days for when I don't exercise of a morning, but to give my body a break as well. But I'm very diligent with that exercise routine, because that's what sets me up for the best for the day. And then the other ritual that I'm very rigid about as well is doing one deep fasting cleanse day every week that resets all my metabolism, and it gives my body a break from solid food. So, and that's part of my health regime around doing what's best for my all my metabolic systems, but particularly for cholesterol management and my cardiovascular system. So, so instead of being angry, I was very angry about having this condition, but making the condition the gift, like we all have health issues. I mean, something like, 62%, of people over 50 are way too much, they carry too much weight. And so these sorts of things is whatever the ailment is I've learned to make that my gift now, right? As the opportunity I get to do something about it and be really rigid about that, because that is what sets me up to be able to succeed and guide and be that role model, by example for others.
I love that. That is so beautiful. And, intermittent fasting and having water, doing water fast, juice fast, doing the correct way, of course, you can actually reverse the aging process with this. It's very, very powerful, and to give your body a break. We're not meant to be eating as much as we eat, which is why so much of the world is so overweight. And when you're overweight and you eat foods that make you feel heavy and tired, like for me, it's bread. I would say that
I know, I love my bread.
Yes. However, sometimes with the wrong types of bread, when I say wrong type, when you get really tired after eating something or you feel bloated, there's possibly something in that food that is not nourishing, and in fact it's having the reverse effect on you, and then your body has to work harder to digest, etc., etc. So yes, health is very, very important. Thank you, Melinda, here, for saying you're grateful for a break in the rain. I'm actually grateful for the rain as well, because the trees and plants, etc., are very happy. However, I do feel for people who've had flooding, and so the break in rain is good for the water to subside, so we can get back to business with some of us and back to school. Some schools have closed lately too. So yes, Melinda, I get that. Melinda says, yes, breathing in own waste, it's just causes face skin breakouts. Yes, I've seen that quite a lot actually from mask wearing. People are getting all sorts of breakouts on their skin, which is shocking. Narcissistic personality. She's got a not happy face there. We've got Moana from Be Styled for Life. Yes, responsibility is key. Melinda says blushing or glowing. That's what you're up to. Yes, Melinda. Yes, I have been up to a little bit of hanky panky. Yes, that is true. She says that's a touchy subject. SMS, email, mobile app, or snail mail. Touchy subject. Now, what was she referring to there?
I think the style of communication that we like to, how we communicate, and the lumpy mail.
Yes, that's a good point. Yes, that was a good point you made. Ask people, how do they like to be communicated with? Because, people just miss messages now. They're just, so many messages out there. Melinda's saying, learn from the past in relation to overseas issues. Yes, learn from the past. History is repeating itself right now in many ways. Melinda, that's both interesting and funny. Look at your shopping list to help you get your next job or big break. Get your next job or big break, or create the opportunity for yourself, as so many people are nowadays. Table tennis, really, that's a great sport for family. Yes, I did represent Australia in table tennis for 6 years, from the age of 13 to 19. I traveled to Europe, Asia, etc., and I had multiple coaches growing up. So I did grow up with coaches and mentors, and I became very familiar and accustomed to that. And also my parents took me to an alpha course when I was about 11 years of age or something like that. That was the first course I went to, was an alpha course. And then from 2005 onwards, I did a abundance program with One Life with Roy McDonald. Then I did the Landmark Education, was massive for me. That was huge transformation I had in that in 2006. And then now since that, many, many different mentors I've worked with. However, table tennis was great for me because my dad always said anger is danger. And I internalized my anger for many years, which actually led to depression. And when I was able to find a way to express that anger, as in table tennis, I used to just beat the hell out of the ball, and I became very good at it. It was a great expression of my anger without actually yelling at anyone or, being nasty to anyone. You can be very powerful in a peaceful way, although with sport, there's a certain amount of aggression needed to, to win. You need to be quite masculine in your energy with something like table tennis, a very fast-moving sport, right? So yes, it was really great for me to actually have that as a outlet in my younger years, and then later on in life, I found a great release through the media to be able to share messages and release, anger in some ways. If I feel angry about something, I'll just write about it or report about it, and then I feel a great release that way to share the messages that way. Melinda says, but eat the right type of bread, stone baked. Oh, stone baked. Okay, stone baked. I like rye bread. What sort of bread do you like, Leah?
Yeah, rye bread and sourdough bread. But for
Sourdough,
me, I love caking it in butter. So that, right, or dipping it in olive oil, and it's sort of like but when it's super fresh, it's great on its own. And of course, that's the best way to have it, is just on its own, right? Not having, But look, everyone has something, and it's like I'm doing a 14-day, focused body transformation detox right now, and I'm actually going to be doing two double cleanse days, Wednesdays and Thursdays. So I'm going to be on fire on Friday. So it's going to be a cracker, right? Because this is when we allow our bodies to reset. There's all kinds of fresh creativity that comes. Right.
And actually creating food is a really great thing.
Yes.
Yeah, and Melinda says laughing hanky panky. Some people call it plumbing. That's another way to refer to it. But anyway, we won't go down that path. Although a lot of people need plumbing now with all the rain that's been happening. A lot of plumbing needs happening at the moment out there. It's a different kind of plumbing.
There is. Yes.
Oh, so Leah, what a great conversation. This is, dip it in garlic, Melinda says. Rye and sourdough, dip it in garlic. And I love balsamic vinegar and olive oil too, which is actually very healthy to get a bit of vinegar into you.
Yes.
And kombucha is fantastic for the gut health, probiotics.
Yes.
Really good.
And sauerkraut is what, we grew up. That's my signature dish, right? It's my mother's sauerkraut recipe.
Oh, yum.
Yes. And it's like, who would have thought that the humble, fermented cabbage? But there's so much goodness in that. So because that counteracts the fats of the meat base that, both of our backgrounds, because they used all of the animal. No waste, right?
Yes, so great, so great.
But
now,
anyway, we could go on.
We could keep going. Now, I noticed the time just went 1:11:11, and I think that's a perfect time to start wrapping up 1:11:11. That means the angels are here. We're in divine flow. Anything else you want to say about leadership? How to express your leadership power that we haven't covered? I know we're going to go into a lot more detail on Friday at the Mass Media Tribe meetup. Anything else you want to say about that before we wrap up?
Look, just to know that wherever you're at in this moment is exactly where you're meant to be, whatever that means for you, and it's your springboard to make this evening, tomorrow, better than it has been today, even if it's by a mustard seed. If we can be 1% better tomorrow than we were today, we're winning, and you are winning. Simply by considering that idea and reflecting on that will take you into a fresh space, right? So when we and that's really what these conversations are about. It's like we're here to light each other up, and I certainly feel lit up after interacting with you and everybody on the call today, and trust that we're on the right path. We are absolutely on the right path.
Everything is in divine order, and how you want your life to look is up to you. A third of people die by the age of 65. The number one regret of the dying is living a life not true to yourself. So if you feel like you are off path at the moment, then perhaps seek a coach, right? Could be a good start. Seek a coach.
Come on Friday. That's a really good start.
Yeah, come on Friday. Look at shifting something, because you keep doing what you've always done, you'll keep getting what you always get, right? So it's perfect you're here watching this conversation or listening to this conversation right now. Melinda, thank you. She says there's kombucha jelly lollies. Oh, I haven't seen those. That sounds pretty cool. And mustard seeds. Oh, mustard seeds. Yum. Yeah, great in cooking. Absolutely. I'm getting hungry now, all this food conversation.
Yes.
Now, how can people connect with you, Leah? Of course, come on Friday and they can find the link for that. Yeah.
Yes. And definitely find me on Facebook and send me a message. Just say, Aldwyn, and I'll know. And also on LinkedIn, Leah Zalums, and YouTube, Leah Zalums Zaxis TV. So I've got a bunch of videos on mindset and sales, and a whole series on the entrepreneur mindset, which are basically, they're basically coaching sessions. So because, again, what's the purpose of any conversation? To move us into a place where we take positive action toward our dream. And that's certainly my intent with every conversation I have. So, that's really about why I produce resources, why, I am speaking up and encouraging people to prioritize, exactly as Aldwyn said, that to make it your priority to create a life that you really love and find work and do work that really lights you up. And there is a way to do both. You do not need to live in a dead-end job just to pay the bills, honestly. There are so many options today.
Absolutely. And if you are in a job and you're just in it for the money, you're not going to last in that, and you're going to have a miserable experience of life. And that miserable experience is going to flow onto your family and to those around you, and you'll actually be dropping the energy all around you. So I suggest, if that's you, just stop it right now. There's lots of other ways you can make money, and you can, have an amazing life at the same time. And, Bob Proctor, rest in peace, Bob Proctor. He died recently at age 87, and he worked right up until the end because he loved what he did, right? So what is it that lights you up? Just start to notice. What is it that you feel passionate about, you get excited about? It could be anything. There's lots of ways to monetize your passion. And, the past doesn't have to represent your future. So, perhaps today is a great day to draw a line in the sand and say, right, time for me to actually do more in line with my passion. And there's always someone who can help you do that. Okay, so reach out. You don't have to do anything in isolation. Okay, reach out. There's support for you there. Reach out to either of us. Leah is absolute gem. I love chatting with you, Leah. The conversations flow so beautifully with you. I absolutely love it. And thank you for interviewing me on Zaxis TV recently. So where can people see that interview as well?
Yes, on YouTube, on Leah Zalums Zaxis TV is probably the best way to find that. And it's also on my Zaxis leadership page on Facebook as well, if we're there. So.
Beautiful. Fantastic. Melinda says, thank you. Great chatting. Great to see you, Melinda. And for those watching the recording of this, let us know what you're grateful for and where are you joining us from right now? And what's something that you got out of this conversation today? What is something you've learned from today, or a different action you're going to take? Because it's all well and good, watching us or listening to us right now. However, if you don't take some action on what you've learned, then, knowledge is nothing without actual action, right? So, so be aware if you're a, bit of a seminar junkie or a learning junkie, it's the action that makes the difference. So I thank you so much, Leah, for joining us today. Any final words before we wrap up the recording?
I think, following on from your comment just now, that the transformation happens faster when we take action, because there's transformation happening, there's change happening all the time.
Yes.
But the more we take the reins of deliberate intent, then this is also what reinstates our power from wherever we're starting from. So
yes, love it.
Taking action, definitely.
Yes, great leaders take action. Thank you so much, Leah. What a pleasure to be here. Come and join us if you would like. We're going to develop this conversation even more on Friday at the Mass Media Tribe Meetup this Friday, March 4. It is going to be from 12 till 2 online, Queensland time, 1 till 3 Sydney time, Melbourne time, etc., which is AEDT. We are on AEST. It's very confusing for 6 months of the year with daylight savings. However, just look it up online. You'll find the links here at linktree/Aldwyn, linktr.ee /Aldwyn. There's also a link there if you want to book a connection call with myself, have a quick chat. If you've got any questions, you can do that. Reach out to Leah as well. And if you come and join us on Friday, then we can continue the conversations. We'd love to hear from you. We'd love to hear a little bit about you. We do networking on this online event. We have prize giveaways at the end. It is a fantastic gathering. So I hope you can join us there for Mass Media Tribe. You can connect with the Mass Media Tribe group on Facebook and on Meetup. Okay, we have Mass Media Tribe groups, and at the Linktree link, you'll see that as well. Please subscribe to Media Queen TV if you haven't already for more inspiring truth and good news stories. We love that. And Leah, you are certainly an absolute joy. You have definitely lit up the room here today. And thank you so much for all those who've joined us on the live recording, Moana and Melinda and all the others that have joined us. Thank you so much for being with us here today and sharing your time. And I look forward to many great journeys together. As Gandhi says, be the change you wish to see in the world. And as I say, shine bright and light up all those around you. Thank you so much once again, Leah, and we'll see you again soon on Media Queen TV. Bye for now.
Bye-bye. Thank you so much.